Imagery and fantasy. J.R.R. Tolkien set out to create a mythology that was English. He rejected the Celtic myths as being too violent and chose to build upon the legend of the ring cycle made famous by Wagner. He kept the myth of the undying West alive and populated his stories with creatures out of European folklore. Other writers turned to Norse myth and the battle of the gods with the titans of ice and darkness. In George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire, this battle for the throne resembles another battle for control of the one true world of Roger Zelazny's Amber. Martin's use of dragons and ice is pure Nordic, whereas Zelazny's Amber resembles Avalon as well as Asgard. More fantasy writers have turned to the Welsh Arthurian cycles for inspiration, some deliberately, like Marion Zimmer Bradley and T.H. White, retelling the tales, others, like Susan Cooper and Lloyd Alexander, adopting the legend and the legends of the Welsh Mabinogion into a wide range of struggles of a child hero against the dark. Some writers, like Alan Garner, have taken inspiration from Welsh folklore, but also from the Irish heroic cycles. Irish tales vary from north to south, but elements of the hunt and the otherworld haunt them. Robert Holstock is a master at pulling from Celtic myth and legend to create believable stories with familiar characters like Guinevere and the Horned God. Another set of legends pull characters to and from the other world of the immortals. The most famous of them is Tam Lin. Talented writers like Patricia McKillop have done their own versions of the legends that resonate with us for an authentic experience. Yet others, like C.S. Lewis and George MacDonald, draw from Celtic legend and layer it into European traditions with a Christian morality that gives a satisfying feeling of Christian values rooted solidly in the European past. Stories tend to follow a fourfold path. There is the path of the lucky lad, the hero who battles the dark to win the kingdom. There is the path of the shaman, a trickster called up from the outer regions to right a wrong. There is a path of the servant girl who, possessing compassion and a purity of spirit, is able to win through to become a queen. And there is the path of the elemental or channeler, whose powers are beyond human, but whose frailties must be overcome to recreate the mythological archetypes. In Europe, hell was not fire and brimstone, but snow and ice. The underworld was ruled by a queen of winter. She is found in fantasy with her great wolf, and is both the giver of gifts and the keeper of the dead. On one hand, she cares for the children. On the other hand, she kidnaps them. Falling down a well, one reaches her country. Returning, one is changed. In ancient times, the pole star was in the constellation Draco. Draco appeared in the heavens to be twisting around itself. In many myths, the world serpent twisted around the tree of life. At the end of time, the serpent must be slain for the cycle to be broken. In most European myths and stories, the journey of the spirit is through the woods. The forest haunted every tale. A path through it was a maze. Lost in the woods, every adventure was a dream from which the innocent returned different, marked by magic. Beasts and trees were in the forest, more alive, more terrifying in their power. The forest was ruled by a shaman. Horned, he went by many names, and later led the wild hunt of the other world. Defamed by invading powers of the church, he became in shadow, an image both cruel and vicious, a shade of the dark woods of the wild in reckless time before law and order. The mountains of Europe were equally dangerous. They were caves of riches mined by gnomes and dwarves, rich troves that attracted dragons. Dragons killed and ravaged the mountains, retreating back to their caves to sit forever on their hoards of gold. Other spirits lived in the hidden places nearby. In hills or lakes, in gardens and woods, they both helped and teased the humans. They took on the guise of immortals with magic powers that could be bargained for help or tricked into service. These elves and sprites were believed to be from the land of the immortals. The land was sometimes pierced by gates. In adventures, heroes stole magic from this land, apples of youth, swords of light, or brides of immortal beauty. Birds were thought to be the spirits of the dead, messengers back and forth from the magical world to this one. A human could learn the language, befriend them, and be made powerful for this knowledge. In fantasy, birds were the most popular of the familiar or magical assistant. Many of the dead were not ready to make the journey from Earth. There were other reliable ways to bring back the dead, but the Western lore is dominated by the cauldron, owned by the triple goddess of fate and the guardian of both life and death. In Europe, fate was a spinner. Sometimes seen as three, she was a blended image of two goddesses, the goddess of the silver wheel, who created the stars, and the goddess of the starry dead. In fantasy, the spinner ruled the night sky, catching up all fates in her threads. The influence of southern stories changed another ancient hunter into the holy warrior who died and ruled the underworld as a hero. Not a soldier, this image was a berserk, a warrior gone mad with counterphobic bloodlust, sometimes ravaging his own people. This is the warrior of the Celts and Norse that Tolkien eschewed. 4 magical paths. Most of the ancient world was divided into 3 or 4 castes. Fairy tales reveal 3 stages of childhood until the adult could live happily ever after. The 4 castes formed a stable society. They were each ruled by their own spiritual ethics and formed 4 paths to enlightenment. The first path is the path of summer, of water, and the trial of a person as a person asked to serve. The story is a series of trials to prove the magical worker is pure, compassionate, humble, and healthy. This trial is dominated by three trials, 3 battles, or 3 tests. Influence from the Southeast made this story more popular with a female character judged by her humility, youth, and beauty. However, it is an ancient story whose full cycle shows the darker image of the mother who kills her own children, is tried for it, and becomes all mothers and all compassion. The next story is the popular hero's journey. In ancient times, the hero was a common lad who passed his trials not by looks or brains or position, but by his luck or charm. He was popular, and aided by his magical companions, adventured after a protective talisman that would help defend their people. For this, the lucky lad could win the hand of the king's child and become a king himself. Over time, he becomes a tyrant, polluted by evil, and must sacrifice himself for the good of his own. In the north, he is spring and the renewing sun. The Winter's Tale is a mad tale where oppression and injustice are overturned by a shaman's apprentice. This fool or jester is an outsider and always an underdog. Born to the magical world, this trickster is called upon when the forces of the kingdom become unbalanced and tyranny has replaced cooperation. Seen as mad, the trickster must fight with lies, deception, sleight of hand, and secrets. Once justice is served, the trickster is banished back to the dark lands of the dead. The 4th story is the story of destruction, of time run out, and a call upon the Creator to overturn the world. This is the story of the priest, the artist, the scientist, or the mystic who has laid aside their life for the sake of their craft or faith. Another person of the other world. This is the rocket path of the elemental, called upon to destroy evil and recreate the world in a new pattern. A person to shift paradigms or overturn old ideas. In the colors of autumn's burning, in the force of inspiration and immolation, this path is magic itself. Once upon a time there were stories. These stories speak a truth, a common thread, repeating colors that wove into the mind and made it a whole garment. The power of story is beyond its players, beyond its setting and scenery. Stories are magic for the soul. For this magic is real. Every person wears a garment. If they are poor in spirit, the garment is patched and ragged by wear and time. However, as conscious beings, we can unpick the threads of our spiritual poverty and weave again. Stories give us pieces of the pattern of our ancestors, give us roots, bits of memory. As conscious beings, we can take the pieces and find again the truth we saw as children. As Westerners, we are orphans. Weaving becomes a journey to find the threads of a forgotten past to recover the spirit.